Okay, this is one thing that a G protein can do once it's released from a metabotropic receptor. So some of the power of these types of metabotropic receptor involves the fact that these G proteins that are released can do more than one thing inside the cell. They can activate many different processes and responses, inside the postsynaptic neuron. Let's look at our section of membrane blown up. Here's our phospholipid bilayer of the postsynaptic cell, right? Here's the neurotransmitter, which has made its way across the synaptic cleft, right? Which was released upon the arrival of an action potential at the presynaptic neuron, right? This neurotransmitter binds to the metabotropic receptor, and a G protein is released, right? There's a shift in shape, and the G protein is released inside this cell. Now, in this case, what I'm showing you here, this is one thing that a G protein released from a metabotropic receptor can do, right? It'll depend upon the neurotransmitter. It'll depend upon the specific receptor. But in this case, I'm showing you a G protein released, moving along, across the membrane, and then binding to, interacting with some other protein structure that sits in the membrane. This is a gated channel, right? This is a channel that before the G protein was released and before it arrived to bind with this channel, it was gated or closed. Nothing could pass through, okay? But when the G protein binds, this structure shifts around and opens a channel. This is now an open conduit for the passage of sodium, right? Sodium, of course, in a postsynaptic cell that is at the resting potential, will drive itself into the cell, based upon the concentration gradient force and also the electrical force, and it will depolarize this neuron. This is adds an element of time between stimulation of the postsynaptic membrane and then the depolarization of the next cell. This is just part of the complex language that neurons, speak to each other. This metabotropic receptor allows for a more complicated, interpretation of the message that is being sent from the presynaptic cell.